Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive into what is honestly one of the most globally confusing regions out there, the British Isles. I mean, we constantly hear these terms thrown around on the news, in movies, or just in everyday conversation, right? And it's so easy to assume they all just mean the exact same thing. But the reality is actually super fascinating and deeply layered, so let's jump right in and untangle this geographic and political knot once and for all.
To kick things off, let's start with the ultimate question, the grand mystery we're going to solve today. Is England the exact same thing as the United Kingdom? Think about it for a second. How often do people say, "Oh, I'm traveling to England," when they're actually heading up to Edinburgh? Or they talk about the King of England, when his title encompasses a whole lot more than just that. It's a completely understandable mistake, but to figure out exactly why it's a mistake, we need to take a step back and look at the absolute basics, the literal land itself.
So, what's truly interesting here is that we are looking purely at physical geography. No borders, no politics, no human interference, just land and water. Fundamentally, the British Isles are basically two large landmasses. You've got Great Britain, that's the larger island sitting over on the right, and then Ireland, the slightly smaller island on the left. If you were looking down from space, this is the undeniable physical reality. But as we know, humanity rarely leaves things as simple as geography presents them.
Right. So here is where things get really interesting. We have to draw a hard line between geographical reality and political reality. Geographically, like we just saw, it's just two islands, Great Britain and Ireland. But politically, well, within these British Isles, there are actually two totally distinct sovereign nations. On one side, we have the United Kingdom, and on the other, the Republic of Ireland. These are completely separate entities on the world stage, with their own independent governments, laws, the whole shebang. The absolute crucial point to take away here is this. Try not to confuse the physical names of the islands with the political nations that actually sit on top of them.
And that perfectly sets up our next layer of complexity. Because if we zoom in conceptually on just the political nation of the United Kingdom, we quickly realize this single state is absolutely not a monolith. It has some very clear, very real internal divisions. At its core, the UK is a highly evolved, complex political union. It's essentially a giant puzzle made up of specific historical pieces that have slowly locked together over the centuries.
Exactly. And those puzzle pieces, they're actually constituent countries. Inside the UK, you have four distinct countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and, hopping across the sea to the other island, Northern Ireland. So looping back to that big question we asked at the start, no way England is absolutely not the same as the UK. England is literally just one of the four foundational parts that make up the whole United Kingdom. Getting this political anatomy straight is absolutely crucial before we start talking about the people who actually live there and how they see themselves.
Which brings us right to the citizens themselves. Officially speaking, on an international level, a person born and living in any of those four countries, whether that's England, Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland, is a citizen of the United Kingdom. Their official legal nationality is British. When they travel abroad and go through customs, this is the passport they hand over. Under international law, they are, across the board, British.
But, and this is a massive but, modern British identity runs so much deeper than just the ink on a passport. Our sources hit the nail on the head here. Even though these citizens are legally British, they are also deeply English, Scottish, Welsh, or Northern Irish. And you know what? They often fiercely prefer those local nationalities. A Scottish person is usually going to feel deeply Scottish first and foremost. A Welsh person carries immense pride in simply being Welsh. Basically, the term British acts as an umbrella, but right underneath it, these incredibly rich, distinct cultural heritages are alive and beating very, very strongly.
So that begs the question, if you've got four distinct countries with such incredibly strong local identities, united under one political umbrella, how on earth do you represent them all visually? Well, the answer is the national flag of the UK, known all over the world as the Union flag or the Union Jack. But here's the thing. This isn't just a pretty design that someone scribbled on a napkin one day. It is quite literally the political evolution of these islands woven directly into cloth. It's essentially a visual math equation made out of three distinct historical flags. Okay, let's do the math. We'll start our visual addition with the first structural element. This right here is the St. Andrew's Cross. It's a white saltire, which is just a fancy word for a diagonal cross, set against a vibrant blue background. This represents Scotland, and fun fact, it's actually one of the oldest national flags still in use anywhere in the world today. So lock that image in your mind, those diagonal lines and that deep blue, because that forms the very foundation of our final design. Next up, we add the second variable to our equation, the St. George's Cross.
As you can see, it's a bold, thick red cross sitting on a crisp white background. This is the true historic national flag of England, and it has been for centuries. Now I want you to imagine taking this red cross and placing it directly over that blue Scottish flag we were just looking at.
And finally, we bring in the last historical piece of the puzzle, the St. Patrick's Cross. This one is a red diagonal cross on a white background, and it historically represents Ireland within this political union. So now we have our ingredients. The three distinct flags, representing the three patron saints and those three historical national identities, are all prepped and ready to be combined.
And boom, here is the big reveal. When you take that white diagonal cross of Scotland, overlay the red diagonal cross of Ireland, and then finally place the majestic central red cross of England right smack on top, you get exactly the Union Jack. Mind-blowing, right? The flag is quite literally a direct amalgamation of British nationalities. It's this exquisite visual compromise that fully acknowledges the individual parts while celebrating the unified whole.
All right. Take a breath. We've covered a ton of ground. Geography, history, complex identity politics, all in just a few minutes. So it's time to see what stuck. Let's do a quick interactive recap to test everything we've just unraveled. I'm going to throw a statement your way, and you just think to yourself if it's fact or fiction. Let's do this.
Okay, first statement. There are exactly 4 countries in the British Isles. What do you think? True or false? Well, actually, that is false. It's a total trick question. Remember that key distinction we talked about? There are 4 countries within the United Kingdom, but the term British Isles is that overarching geographical label, which includes a completely independent nation, the Republic of Ireland. So politically speaking, there are 2 sovereign nations in the Isles overall, even though one of them is internally split into 4. All right, next statement. A person from Wales is both British and Welsh. True or false? This one is absolutely true. Officially and internationally, their legal nationality is British, but culturally, personally, on a day-to-day level, they possess that fiercely proud Welsh identity. It's a perfect example of that beautiful, dual-layered identity that really defines what it means to be a modern citizen in this region.
Okay, last one, and this is to debunk the biggest myth of all. The Union Jack is England's national flag. True or false? False, false, false. As we literally just saw with our visual math equation, England's true flag is simply the St. George's Cross, just the red cross on white. The Union Jack is the flag of the entire United Kingdom. It represents the political union of multiple nations, not just England. Which leaves us with this really powerful final thought. We've looked at the maps, we've broken down the borders, and we've quite literally dismantled the national flag piece by piece. And the big takeaway is that being British doesn't erase being English or Scottish or Welsh or Northern Irish. So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. How does a single flag, and ultimately a single unified political nation, manage to hold together local identities that are so fiercely distinct and deeply rooted in history? It's a wildly delicate balance of local pride and overarching political union, and it's what makes the British Isles such a truly fascinating place to study. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the world around you.